So I grew up in Ohio pretty much, and I grew up so it's a Christian place, and so I was exposed to Christianity. Also, my family's Christian, so I grew up going to church. But my family's Catholic, so I learned that a lot of Christians they think you're going to hell if you're Catholic because you can only go to hell, you only can go through accepting Jesus a certain way, and if you don't do that, you're going to go to hell. And so I was exposed to that very early too. So I never really liked that idea, and that made me kind of reject Christianity altogether, knowing that there's these Christians out there that think you're going to hell if you don't accept Jesus and that certain worldview they have about original sin and that you need to be forgiven through this weird sacrifice thing. Uh, Later in life, I took a class with a Jewish professor at Columbus State. The Bible as literature, and he also taught British literature. He was an accountant who gave up on accounting and went back to school and studied literature because it's better. But he taught the Bible as literature, and I don't know his exact background, but he grew up going to like Hebrew school, and so he learned Hebrew and read the Bible. But he wasn't Christian, but the class also included the New Testament, and when we got to the New Testament, he was really excited about Jesus for things like the Sermon on the Mount and the overturning the tables, the money changers, and that got me interested in Jesus again. Then, so I learned about Islam, and some years later, I became a Muslim, and I learned that there's Muslims that. Well, if you just read the Quran, it says some Jews and Christians are good and going to heaven, and if you look at the history of the Islamic thinkers, not the intolerant ones propped up by the British and the CIA, but the old classical Islamic thinkers. Well, if you look at Rumi, he tells a story: the last two people being sent to hell, and they're being dragged to hell, and they're both horrible people. They both deserve it. But the one being dragged to hell, he thinks, well, I know I deserve this, but, I know God's the all-merciful, and just maybe even I can be forgiven. And so he looks back in hope that, maybe God will forgive me. And so he's forgiven. So the only thing you can't be forgiven for is losing hope of forgiveness and losing faith in God and not turning to God. So you turn to God, and God will turn to you. And so there's many Muslims that they have just an Islamic version of the intolerant Christians that I grew up with. They think if you're not doing our thing, you're going to hell. And I think there's some difference. Muslims believe Jesus isn't God, and you shouldn't believe that. And however, believe what you want. Be a good person, feed the poor, be good to orphans. We can agree on these things. We can come together and work on them together, and we don't need to focus on we don't need to take anything to this extreme. Oh, you're going to hell. And not God being the all-merciful, all-forgiving, potentially judge that we face. And so there's just a few thoughts. I like to come together and see more bring together than split apart. But it's good to be clear about where we disagree too. It's okay to be clear about disagreements and just accept them and what do we hold in common, and we can work with that. So peace, everybody.